恭请大德圣听，为这法会一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱世，离苦得乐，殊证无生。Word Shankar with gratitude out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmyao sanputoche. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Hello everyone, welcome back. After a fairly long break, today is Sunday, the 5th of December. We are across the deadline. If you're not, then it would be the 4th, Saturday, the 4th of December. And as usual, we'll begin with chanting the name of Medicine Master Buddha 7 times. And then I'm going to ask if anyone has any interesting Dharma-related stories, encounters or experiences that they want to share after that, so you can think about it and respond. Okay. Namo, quelling disasters, lending life, medicine master Buddha. 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 Medicine master does come one, medicine master does come one, medicine master does come one, medicine master does come one. Okay, let me change slides and as I mentioned before, does anyone have anything they would like to share? Any interesting stories or news or experiences? Okay, let me end this slideshow. If you can chat it during the chat box. Type it into the chat box if you do. Okay, let's get on with today's class. I have a very interesting story that I'm very excited to share because for a long time, I've been looking for the source of the story. After reading it somewhere, it's about a dog that because the dog was being very stingy, the dog was reborn. No, sorry, it was about a man who was very stingy and he was reborn as a dog, and who even as a dog, it guarded its treasures. It remembered where its treasures were buried. So I'll share the story in the relevant part of the sutra today. Okay, where are we? All right, we are in the section of the sutra that continues from what we've been discussing about precepts, but this time Shakyamuni Buddha is speaking about people who harbor stinginess, greed, and jealousy. So let's read that part of the sutra first. It's about 3 slides wrong. Okay. Moreover, Manjushri. So I'm going to invite everyone to join me in putting our palms together as we read along. Moreover, Manjushri, if there are sentient beings who harbor stinginess, greed, and jealousy, who praise themselves and disparage others, they will fall into the 3 evil destinies for countless thousands of years, where they will undergo intense suffering. After undergoing intense suffering, at the end of their lives, they will be born in the world as oxen, horses, camels, and donkeys that are constantly beaten, afflicted by thirst and hunger, and made to carry heavy burdens along the roads. Or they may be reborn among lowly people as slaves or servants who are always ordered around by others and who never for a moment feel at ease. If such beings, in their former lives as humans, heard the name of the world-honored one, medicine master Vaidurya like Tathagata, and by this good cause are able to remember it and sincerely take refuge with that Buddha, then by means of the Buddha's spiritual power, they will be liberated from all sufferings. They will be endowed with keen faculties, and they will be wise and erudite. They will always seek the supreme dharmas and encounter good friends. They will eternally sever the nets of demons and smash the shell of ignorance. They will dry up the river of afflictions and be liberated from birth, old age, sickness, death, anxiety, grief, suffering, and vexation. Okay, so this, I'm going to jump back to the beginning of the slide. Okay, so you could say that the theme for today's class or lecture is all about stinginess, greed, and jealousy. And why? Because, well, if someone who always behaves in that manner, they fall into the 3 evil destinies. And what are the 3 evil destinies? That's the realm of animals, as described in the next passage, or lower down, the realm of commonly known as hungry ghosts, and further down, the 3rd evil realm is the hell realm, and that's something that everyone should really try to avoid. Okay, and then there's also a very interesting twist in the passage that, as you can see on your screen, the Buddha says, if such beings in their former lives as humans heard the name of the world-honored one, and by this good cause are able to remember and sincerely take refuge Then by means of the Buddha's spiritual power, they will be liberated from all sufferings. So I've been thinking about this. And I'm just going to advance to the next slide. And I was wondering if, is that a mistake? Did the Buddha mean that they hear the name of Medicine Master Buddha in the current life rather than the former life? So Shufu's commentary is this. Shufu said that as humans, they might have heard someone reciting the name of Medicine Master Buddha. If they remember the Buddha's name while they are in the three evil paths, they will be reborn in the human realm. Moreover, they will remember their past lives. Having the knowledge of past lives, they will dread the sufferings of the evil destinies. They will not delight in worldly pleasures, but will rejoice in giving and praise others who give. They will no longer indulge in eating, drinking, and making merry, but will instead delight in giving to all living beings and will praise those who do charity. There is no longer misers or being stingy. In this life, they may once again think of the Buddha's name and take refuge in him with utmost sincerity. Then by means of the Buddha's awesome spiritual power, by the spiritual power of his great vows, they will be liberated from all sufferings and distress. They will be endowed with keen faculties. They will have excellent seeing, hearing, and a highly developed sense of smell. They will have discerning taste buds. They will have an acute sense of touch and will be very intelligent with good memories, and they will be wise and erudite. So this is Shufu's commentary on this part of the sutra. So I guess when we hear the Buddha's name, and if it's not just a literal hearing, but we hear in the sense that we understand, and hearing, I guess you can look at hearing as a metaphor for practice. So hearing means we understand, we absorb, we listen to the Buddha's teachings, we contemplate, we absorb, and we practice according to the Buddha's teachings, and we plant good seeds of good habits, good karmic seeds in our consciousness. That I think, so my theory is that I think that allows in our future lives the opportunity for Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to be able to create the right conditions to activate the seeds again. And then we remember, and because of that, they are able, we help the Buddhas be able to help ourselves by doing the work ourselves, if that makes sense. By planting good seeds, good affinities with the Dharma and the Buddha, it gives them the ability in the future to save us or to remind us of our past good deeds and our past habits, and then we gravitate towards that. I hope that makes sense. If not, you can ask me more questions, because that's not really what we're concentrating on in this in today's class. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is a poster of the 100 Dharmas. The 100 Dharmas is a shastra that Shufu commented on, and it's a very brief summary of all the different afflictions, sufferings, and all the components of, you could say, our existence. There's a lot more, Shufu says, but they summarize it under the 100 Dharmas. And so when it comes to greed, anger, and stinginess, you can see on the screen highlighted in red, we have greed, and then we have envy or jealousy in the middle bottom. And then underneath that is selfishness. So the 100 Dharmas list greed, envy, or jealousy, and selfishness as okay, let me see. So greed is considered number 30. Greed is a fundamental affliction, and then we'll look more into greed. And then when it comes to envy or jealousy and selfishness, they are classified as derivative afflictions. So they arise from the 6 fundamental afflictions, of which greed is one of them. So in the order of the sutra mentioned stinginess first. So let's do that. Okay, so Saha has a question. We'll come to Saha's question at the end of the class. So what is stinginess? Okay, stinginess or matsarya in Sanskrit. I'm not sure how to pronounce that right. So stinginess is defined as the inability to bear the good fortune of others because of one's attachment to objects. So because we are attached to things, okay, that sometimes our attachment is so strong that if we see other people having things that we want, or having a better life, or having something that we don't have, or we might even have it, what it does is our attachment makes us unhappy for them instead of being able to rejoice in their well-being. Their good fortune makes us miserable. Okay, and stinginess is the opposite of generosity, and it is related to hatred, and the result is mental discomfort and unhappiness. So if you analyze or you pay attention to how you feel when you are overcome with stinginess, you will find mental discomfort and unhappiness. And then in the Shastra and the 100 Dharmas, Shufu says that with this affliction, one is tight with one's benefits, not wishing to share them with others. One is unable to give anything away. Says, for instance, if a stingy person has money and it is suggested he part with some of it, he simply cannot bring himself to do so. He hangs on to that money, squeezing every penny of it so tightly that it turns to liquid and melts away in his palm. Then he wonders where it went. Okay, what does this mean? We'll come to that, because since the opposite of stinginess is generosity, and we've covered generosity or giving fairly extensively in our earlier classes, I'm going to introduce a few slides from there before. Okay, so there's a saying that says, what makes the world go round? Okay, there's a sutra called the Ajita Manawa Pucha, or Ajita's questions. And Ajita is asking the Buddha, he said, his question is, with what is the world shrouded? Shrouded means covered over. In this sense, clouded over isn't a good thing, because he says, because of what doesn't it shine? So you're covering the shine, which is probably the light of wisdom. You can say, what's the shine? And then with what is it smeared? Tell me, what is its greatest danger and fear? Okay, so with what is the world shrouded? Because of what doesn't it shine? With what is it smeared? Tell me, what is the greatest danger and fear in this world? Okay, and the Buddha answered, with ignorance, the world is shrouded. Because of stinginess, heedlessness is carelessness, it doesn't shine. With longing, it's smeared, I tell you. Suffering, stress, its greatest danger and fear. So stinginess is it's definitely something we want to avoid. So now we go to the opposite of stinginess, which is generosity. And we've covered this before, so I'm just going to read it. The Buddha, in one of his sermons, translated as giving even one's last meal, says, if beings knew, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they will not eat without having given, nor would the stain of selfishness overcome their minds. Even if it were their last bite, their last mouthful, they would not eat without having shared, if there were someone to receive their gift. But because beings do not know, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they eat without having given. The stain of selfishness overcomes their minds. So if someone could actually see cause and effect, and can see the rewards of even the smallest act of giving, the Buddha says you would never miss up a chance to give. even if it's your last meal or you're really hungry and that's the only food you have, because you know that the rewards you get from giving are so great that it's not that you're greedy for the rewards, but the thought of being stingy never even occurs. Okay, one more slide on generosity. Buddha says, what the miser fears that keeps him from giving is the very danger that comes when he doesn't give, which is really ironic. People don't want to give because they want to retain, they want more. That's what selfishness is. They want it for themselves. But because they are ignorant and they lack the wisdom of seeing that if you actually give, you get more in return. It's just that the results may not be immediate. So because of ignorance, the more stingy you are, the worse off you will be in the future. So that's what ignorance is, not understanding cause and effect. So imagine if there's this magic bank account that we have, and it's the way okay, so how much money you put in this bank overnight, it doubles your money. So if you only have 50 cents and you put it in, tomorrow it becomes $1. If anyone has a bank account like this, any money that they have, they would, we'll call it gift, they will put it into the bank account, right? So the cause and effect of giving is actually like that, except that it's not double. In different sutras throughout the Pali Canon, the Buddha has described the benefits from giving. In the Earth Source Sutra, it says that if you give to close family, if you perform an act of generosity and you are able to dedicate the merit to your close members of your family, I think, what was it? You get less than 10, maybe 7 of your lifetimes will be full of blessings. So that's a huge return on investment. But because it happens in the future, sometimes it doesn't happen immediately. There are also sutras where someone, there's a sutra of a gold rabbit. I just remembered this. A poor farmer gave away whatever food he had for lunch to I think it was a Prachika Buddha, a monk who was a Prachika Buddha. And his immediate reward was a gold rabbit, a magical gold rabbit, that when he broke off a piece of the food, it will grow back again. It's like when I was young, I remember the story of the hen that laid the golden egg or golden eggs, something along those lines. Yeah, never-ending treasure as reward. Yeah. So the Buddha says that in the next slide we have, even if a person throws the rinsings of a bowl or a cup into a village pool or pond, thinking, may whatever animals live here feed on this, he says that would be a source of merit. And finally, we have SN 1.41, where it says what is given isn't lost, which is very straight to the point. It says, so when the world is on fire with aging and death, one should salvage one's wealth by giving. What's given is well salvaged. What's given bears fruit as pleasure. What isn't given does not. Thieves take it away, or kings, it gets burned by fire or lost. So any act of generosity will bear its rewards. Yeah, so okay. We've covered stinginess. Now let's go to the next one, which is greed. There are 2 definitions of greed. If you look at in how people analyze Buddhism, known in the Sanskrit as raga or lobha, but in English just translated as greed or passion or desire, is known as one of the 3 poisons So greed, anger, and delusion, or greed, hatred, ignorance. Sometimes it's translated that way. Or desire, hatred, ignorance is the three poisons. So so when does greed happen? Greed happens when there is mental action that perceives an internal or external phenomenon. What's an internal phenomenon? Say a memory, you remember something. External would be anything to do with our senses, our eyes, our ears, nose, tongue, body, or otherwise known as our five skandhas. So we receive an internal or external stimuli or phenomenon, and then because of ignorance, via ignorance or without proper comprehension, feelings of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral arise. So when we feel something, or we sense something, we hear something, there can be three types of feelings: pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. How can that be? To illustrate the point, we take say music, say a very smooth sounding classical music. Okay, so you walk into a shop and they're playing classical music in the background and you're not really paying attention. That's probably you can classify. When someone talks to you about the music and you hear the music, say, oh, okay, yeah, you don't really care, you're not listening. So that's kind of neutral. But if it's your favorite piece of music, say it's your favorite piece of classical music, and you're paying attention to it, and because it's your favorite, then it turns into a pleasant feeling. You enjoy the senses. But if you happen to be too near the speaker, or if they're playing it too loud to the point that sometimes the sound gets distorted, then it hurts the ears. It's no longer pleasant, and then it turns into an unpleasant feeling. So in some sutras, the Buddha classifies feelings as these three: pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So what happens when it's pleasant? We naturally develop a desire. This is, we generate passion towards the pleasant. What happens when it's unpleasant? People think that unpleasant is just aversion or wanting to move away, but it's at the same time, it's we are moving away towards comfort. So it creates a desire for pleasant or comfort as well. Say if you're uncomfortable right now, as we are sitting, listening to me, I'm listening to myself. Whenever we feel uncomfortable with our position, we automatically want to change our position. So that's what it means, that aversion is also moving towards comfort. And then, so what happens is greed is a psychological reaction. It happens in the mind. It's a thought that's associated with the pursuing, the possessing, or the yearning for displeasing objects and emotions. So when we have any sensory input through our five skandhas, or basically that's, in other words, our experience of life. Five skandhas means our experience of life. So throughout our daily life, when we experience something that we find to be pleasing, there's a movement in our mind that wants to pursue or to possess or wants the experience to last. That's greed. And what can greed be? Well, in the text, it says that anything that you classify as a sensual pleasure, or it could be a material belonging. I don't know, your favorite shirt or garment, watch, your car, your house. It could be loved ones like your family. It could be a desire for fame. Even the five skandhas itself, the experience of life itself, is listed under things that we can have passion about. Ideologies and views, the thoughts that you have, the how you say, the principles that exist in your mind that you take to define you for who you are, that makes you who you are. Your ideologies and views are things that you have attachment and desires towards. Sometimes you have even attachment towards dhyana, because dhyana is a very comfortable place to be in, and our forms of existence. Those are things that are listed as things that we can have attachment or greed towards. Okay, now let's look at what Shufu has to say about greed. And this is from the Shastra and the 100 Dharmas. Shufu says, what is meant by desire? Says it is the wanting of something. Once one gets something, the next thing that happens is that one tries to get it, to grasp at it. That is the result of desire. What does one want to get most? Pleasurable states. One wants to have pleasurable experiences. That makes total sense. I mean, no one wants to be miserable. Everyone wants to be happy. But the problem is going back. Once we have it, we try to hold on to it. We try to we get attached. So instead of us being in control, the state or the item that causes the state to arise controls us. How does that look like? Okay, I'm going to share a video with you right now. Let me move it to the screen. It's called Baby First Time Ice Cream. Okay, for those of you online, I think last time when I shared a video, YouTube gave me a copyright notice. I'm not sure how that works. I'm not sure if it blocks a video from being seen or something. So what I'm going to do is if you're watching this on YouTube, you won't be able to watch the video, but I will share the link to the video in the comments. All right, so I'm going to edit this part out. Given that we are on greed right now. Okay, okay, so going on, Shufu says that greed is impossible to satisfy, and there is greed for wealth, for sex, for fame, for food, and for sleep, as well as greed for forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and objects of touch. Meaning, in our daily life, there's greed for a lot of the things that we come across. Shufu also says, why is greed considered unwholesome? Because it is a default kind of dharma. It is unclean. Anyone who is greedy, therefore, is also unclean. One has this defilement and filth, and one has attachments. That is why greed is not good. Retributions involving suffering come as a result of having been greedy in the past. Any suffering due to you in the future would be the result of present greed. That's a really powerful statement. The last sentence, any suffering due, there's a typo, any suffering due to you in the future would be the result of present greed. So any greed that we have right now, that, you know, it's, in other words, we're just planting the condition, we're just planting the seeds for future suffering to arise for ourselves. But we don't look at greed that way. We don't look at anytime we want something more of something, or, you know, we have greed. We always think that we are satisfying an urge. We never ever look at it in terms of cause and effect as to what am I doing for my future and for my future lives. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to jealousy. So Saha says that attachment to anything in life is the worst thing that could happen to anyone, especially attachment to emotional love. Anyone who's ever been in emotional love creates a really strong attachment. Yeah. Okay, jealousy or Ishya in Sanskrit. Again, I can't pronounce it well. Jealousy or envy is the unwholesome displeasure one experiences when witnessing others' virtues, gains, and rewards, or simply general well-being. It's very similar to how greed was defined earlier. It is inseparable or cannot exist independently from aversion or ill will or hatred. So whenever we have feelings of jealousy, within that jealousy also we have aversion, which is, aversion means you're pushing away of, or ill will and hatred. So jealousy is the opposite of the salutary mental state of sympathetic joy or mudita, which is one of the 4 Brahma viharas. So sympathetic joy means that I like to define sympathetic joy or empathetic joy, depending on who translates it, mudita, as insurance for happiness. Because what sympathetic joy is whenever you see someone who's happy, who has good fortune, or anything good happens to them, you feel happy for them. And your happiness might be even greater than their happiness. You know, someone wins something, and if a very rich person wins a car, and to them it's no big deal because they could have afforded the car anyway. So they're happy, but they're not like ecstatic. But because you are full of mudita or sympathetic joy, you feel more happy for them than they feel for themselves. And that's really important because that form of happiness creates a lot of merit for oneself. Yeah. So that's why one of mudita or empathetic joy, sympathetic joy is one of the main practices of the Bodhisattva. Okay, what else? Shufu commentary on jealousy. Shufu says this affliction occurs when one becomes envious of those who surpass one in some way or another. For example, someone may be endowed with an excellent memory. Because of this, one becomes jealous of that person, thinking if only that person weren't around, then I would be number one. As long as he's here, I don't get to be first. So Shufu says that is jealousy. I think when Shufu shared this example, he was probably speaking to someone who was listening at that time. Therefore, Shufu uses the peculiar example of excellent memory. And then Shufu says, or one may get jealous of someone with a higher level of education than one possesses and end up thinking the same kind of thought, thinking that as long as that person is around, I can't be number one. Without that person, I will be the most highly educated one here. So being jealous of anyone who surpasses one in any way is included in the definition of this affliction. Okay, so there's a sutta called the Questions of Brahma Datta. So Brahma Datta was a king who had an audience with the Buddha and asked the Buddha some questions. And one of the questions the King Brahmadatta asked was about jealousy. So this is the Buddha's answer. Buddha says that, great king, recognize the following 6 things as characteristics of jealous people. What are they? Okay, the first one is being deceitful like a crow. If anyone has any examples of what this means, please share it with us. Okay, what being deceitful like a crow means. Okay. Second one is talking foolishly. Third is lacking self-control. Number 4 is being pleased when others are denounced. Number 5, doubting the qualities of others. Number 6, thinking excessively. I think number 6, there's a lot of suffering there. Someone who thinks excessively. Number 7, being excessively sorrowful. Number 8, possessing extreme mental discomfort. Number 9, being envious. Number 10, possessing a decrepit figure and complexion. Number 11, being overwhelmed with pride. Number 12, disliking monks. Number 13, being rude towards unexpected visitors. Number 14, looking for mistakes to start an argument. And number 15, being stingy regarding one's residence. That means not being a good host. And the last one is not attending teachings, meaning anything related to the Dharma, not listening with attention but having a distracted mind, spreading rumors, and saying with contempt for the Dharma, I don't understand what was said. It is a foolish, mundane, conventional Dharma being taught. Trying to put people down. Yeah. Or trying to put people down, discredit or devalue things that people do. That's a fundamental characteristic of what jealousy is. Okay, so Melinda in the chat box says, okay, there are different selling, okay, her question is related to greed. It says there are different selling strategies, such as buy two, free one packages. Do this fall under greed? Only the person would know, Melinda. The person, let's not talk about on the seller side, okay, but on the buyer side, people who respond to anything when you buy something, regardless of whether it's a sale or not a sale, it could be full price, it could be discounted, it could be, 3 for the price of 2, buy 2 get 1 free. Only the person would know for themselves if they are being greedy or not. So on the surface, you can't really tell. Someone might be trying to save money, they're being frugal, or at the same time they could be stingy. You can't really judge. That's why we have to look inside ourselves and see our own motivations. Okay, now I'm going to share a sutta with you. It's called the is it Kula or Chula? I'll just say Kula Karma Vibhanga Sutta, the shorter exposition of karma. And I'm going to read part of the sutra first, and then I'm going to share why I'm sharing this sutra. Okay, so it starts off like this. It says, thus I have heard, on one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then Subha, the student, in parentheses, it says here Brahman, meaning of the gentleman class, or it could be he was, let me say, Brahmin. Okay, anyway, let's say he's on the upper class, well educated. And Subha is Todiya's son, went to the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. And when the courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side. When he had done so, Subha, the student, said to the Blessed One, says, Master Gautama, what is the reason, what is the condition why inferiority and superiority are met with among human beings, among mankind? For one meets with short-lived and long-lived people, sick and healthy people, ugly and beautiful people, insignificant and influential people, poor and rich people, low-born and high-born people, stupid and wise people. What is the reason? What is the condition where superiority and inferiority are met among human beings, among mankind? So basically, Subha's question, Subha, the son of Todiya, is asking the Buddha, why among human beings, everyone's fate is so different? There's such a wide disparity among the things that people are able to enjoy, their families, the way they are, the things that they are born with, and their quality of life. Okay, so before we go further into the sutra and the Buddha's answer, why I found this sutra very interesting is because this sutra has a very, very interesting backstory, which was given to us by a very famous Buddhist commentator, Buddhaghosa, who was around, I think, in the 5th century. And a lot of the Theravada texts that has been compiled, like the Visuddha, I better not pronounce, but a lot of the main Theravada Shastras that have been compiled and used today were thanks to Venerable Buddhaghosa. Okay, so what's the interesting backstory? All right. First, we talk about Subha's dad, Todiya. Todiya was was, because at the point of this sutra, Todeya was no longer. But when he was alive, he was very, very rich. And he was a very learned Brahmin or gentleman. And he was so trusted by the king, King Pasenadi of Kosala. Some say that he was the king's astrologer, meaning he helped the king plan how and when to make certain decisions, that the king actually gave him a whole village for him to take care. So that's Todeya. And he had only one son, which was Suba. So despite his riches, Todeya was a very, very stingy person. He was so stingy that anyone who came to his house, whether they were beggars or whether they were monks or mendicants from different schools, he turned them away. Yeah, and not only did he turn them away, he would often scold them as well. And he encouraged other people, including his son, to do the same. Yeah. So Todeya was not a disciple of the Buddha, and it is said that when he, whenever he encountered the Buddha, he would not. I'm not sure if he was disrespectful, but he was definitely not respectful, because he would address the Buddha in the same manner as how he would address a friend, so there wasn't any respect. It might have been cordial, but there wasn't any respect. Yeah. And he, how he would teach the son, at that time they would use a certain, they also had makeup, and there was a certain ingredient that would be formed in a cake that they would rub under the eyes. He would explain to the son, he says that if you give away your wealth, he says just as that cake of makeup, as you rub under the eyes, eventually will disappear. The more you use it, that's what happens to wealth when you give it away. So that's how he taught the son not to give anything away. And at the same time, he taught the son to be to hoard and to accumulate, to be greedy for more wealth. And he told the son, he said, just as termites, they collect earth grain by grain, but they're able to build a huge mound. Says that's how you should treat your wealth. Don't give anything away, but at the same time, get as much as you can until your riches grow and grow. Okay, so that's how he taught his son. So when he died, because he never overcame his habit of being so stingy, he was reborn as a dog in the same house, in the same piece of land that he was living in. This is just like earlier in the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra that we read, when one of the retributions for being stingy is to be born in the lower realms. So Todeya, poor Todeya, was born as a dog. And because of his past affinities with the son felt really affectionate to this dog without knowing what was going on. So the son personally took care of the dog, gave it good food, would bathe the dog on a regular basis, and not just bathe the dog, but perfume the dog so the dog would smell nice, and gave it a very special soft cushion bed that the dog loves to sleep on. Okay, so it is said from Buddha Ghosha's commentary, he said one day the Buddha knew it was the right time to visit Suba. At this time, Suba wasn't the disciple of the Buddha. So this encounter is before this sutra that I'm sharing with you right now, before this sutra happened. So the Buddha decided to go for his alms round at Suba's house. And it is said that this is a house where no one had ever received any food. So when the Buddha arrived at the house, the dog, which was formerly Todeya, saw the Buddha and began to bark at the Buddha. Okay, so the Buddha gently said to the dog, but it was within earshot of the servants, so other people could hear. So the Buddha told the dog, Buddha said, Todeya, not only now, but in earlier births too, you receive me and my disciples in such a manner. You now reap the results of those deeds. Not content, you bark at me. Do you know that such conduct will result in a birth in a hell realm? So that's how the Buddha spoke to the dog. And the Buddha addressed the dog by his former human name. So when the Buddha spoke to the dog, it is said that the dog understood exactly what the Buddha was saying. And the dog thought to himself, oh, the ascetic Gautama knows me. And feeling really ashamed, the dog ran away to the back of the house. And instead of sleeping in his comfortable bed, the dog went to sleep in a very dirty place where they would use to burn firewood. So there's a lot of ashes there. So Suba then came back to the house and he found the dog. First thing he did was he looked for the dog. And he found the dog in that dirty place. And the dog didn't want to come out because the dog was feeling really, really miserable because someone knows his secret, or maybe the dog, because of the Buddha, the dog could remember who he was. And when Suba questioned his servants, the servants told him what happened, that the Buddha had come. And not just that, but the Buddha called the dog his father's name. And this made Suba really upset. He says, how can the Buddha do such a thing? My father has been reborn in the abode of Brahmas. Because they were Brahmins, they believed that by doing certain things, by being a good Brahmin, doing certain ceremonies, maybe even sacrifices, offerings to the gods, that you will be reborn in the realm of the Brahma god. So that's what his son believed, because his father was a good Brahmin. So hearing this, he got very upset, and he immediately went to wanting to confront the Buddha. Okay, so as he approached the Buddha, who was back in, I think, the grove, wherever the Buddha was staying, the Buddha started to have thoughts of loving kindness and compassion towards Suba. And the effect that this had was that when Suba came directly in front of the Buddha, he was no longer angry, but he still had his question. He said, my father has been born in the Brahma world. He says, why did you have to demean my father by addressing the dog in his name? Okay. So what the Buddha did was, the Buddha first confirmed that yes, that indeed happened, that the Buddha did call or talk to the dog using his father's name. And then the Buddha asked Suba, he said, oh Suba, is it true that there are still a number of properties which your father had failed to mention where they are kept? Suba then responded, yes, indeed, there are 3 in number: a gold necklace, a pair of gold slippers, and a gold vase worth 1 lakh each. 1 lakh is a number of 100,000. In other words, these are 3 really valuable items, and also a lakh of cash, all totaling 4 lakhs in value. These are mentioned in the list of properties bequeathed to me, but cannot be found or traced anywhere. So basically, when Todaya passed away, he had a whole, being, I'm not surprised that being the miser that he was, he would have an account of all his properties and his assets. It all went to his son, but there were 4 missing items. Okay, a gold necklace, a pair of gold slippers, and a gold vase, and the 4th one was a bunch of cash, all worth a lot of money, which could not be found. So the Buddha said, okay, if so, he said, Suba, go home now, and on your arrival, feed the dog with milk rice and other nice food. When the dog is in deep sleep, whisper in its ears, Father, please show me where your treasure is buried. And he told Suba, he said, the dog would then reveal everything. So this is a very unusual, imagine yourself and someone were to tell you that, Buddha or no Buddha, especially if you are not a disciple of the Buddha, it is a very, very unusual request. So Suba thought to himself, he said, if what Aishin, I think Aishin is a word for teacher or mendicant, says if what Venerable Gautama has said were true, the missing properties will be recovered. If his words were found to be false, I can then accuse him of telling lies. So either way, he thought he would win. So he went home, he fed the dog with good things to eat until the dog was full. And then when the dog was sleeping, he whispered in his ear and said, "Oh, Father, these properties," and then he listed down the 4 properties. He says, "Where are they kept? Please show me where they are." So the dog, he said that the dog was in a dream-like state, started howling because the dog said, "Oh, my secret is out. They all know who I really am." And in this dream-like state, the dog went to 4 different places on the property and started digging. And so these 4 different places, when the people started, when the servants dug further, they found the 4 items as indicated by that the Buddha told Suba was missing. Yeah. So because of this incident, Suba then became warmed up to the Buddha, and at the point of this sutta that we are reading right now, Suba then had this question about why there are differences in people, and because of his increasing faith in the Buddha and respect, after this sutta, he became a disciple of the Buddha. So that was a story I wanted to share, but there's more than that. There's a very interesting text, a text that's relatively unknown. It's called The Birth Stories of the 10 Bodhisattvas. It's about the Buddha describing who the 10 future Buddhas will be after Shakyamuni Buddha. So the first one we all know would be Maitreya Bodhisattva. He's going to be the first Buddha after Shakyamuni Buddha. And the interesting part is Suba, this young man who is in our protagonist in the sutta, is going to be Buddha number 7, and his name will be Deva Deva, God. Deva means God. He will be Buddha number 7 after Shakyamuni Buddha. When he achieves enlightenment, instead of the Bodhi tree, he will achieve enlightenment under the Champaka tree. I think some of us are familiar with what the Champaka tree is. They have very nice smelling white flowers. His lifespan will be 80,000 years, and his height will be 80 cubits. I didn't have time to find out what cubits are. 80 cubits in height is a very tall, that's very tall. And it is said that during that time, when he becomes a Buddha, a special fragrant rice will grow. People won't have to work at that time, not like now where we have to work and earn money for a living. At that time, you don't have to work, and if you want to eat, there's this special fragrant rice that you can just harvest and eat. And instead of factories or people making things to sell, there will be a wish-fulfilling tree, a very special tree that will grow the things that you want. Whatever you want to grow on a tree, and you just take and use. You know, when people wish money grew on trees, this is even better than that, because it grows whatever you want. I'm not sure how it works. Maybe we can be reborn in that time and find out for ourselves. I wish all of us get enlightened before that. But so Suba will be Buddha number 7, and his name will be Deva Deva. But guess who's going to be Buddha number 8? You want to guess who's going to be Buddha number 8? His dad, Todaya. Todaya will be Buddha number 8, and at the same time, and the Buddha describes that Todaya will become a Buddha under a trumpet flower tree. That's a tree that you can find in India, Nepal, right now. Also, there will be a special fragrant rice that will grow during that time. So the son will be Buddha number 7, And the father, Todaya, his name will be, let me see, Narasiha. His name as the Buddha will be the Buddha Narasiha. He will be Buddha number 8 after Shakyamuni Buddha. So I thought this was a very interesting story because there's the element of what we just read in the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra, where because of stinginess, you are reborn in the lower realms. But at the same time, if you have practiced before, then you can recover. And in what I haven't shared is what was the result of, what did Todaya do to get the prediction of Buddhahood? And I don't have all the full details right now, but in a past life, before he became Todaya and before he was a dog, Todaya met a Prachika Buddha, and he was so moved by the Prachika Buddha that he offered cloth to cover the Prachika Buddha, and he dedicated the merit of that deed to his own awakening. He said, in the future, he said, through this act, in the future, may I become a fully awakened one. And it was that led him on his journey along the path. Okay, so we are past time, but let's finish at least this sutta. So the answer that the Buddha gave to Subha's question was, he said, student or Subha, said, beings are owners of karma, heir to karma, born of karma, related through karma, and have karma as the arbitrator. Karma is what creates distinctions among beings in terms of coarseness and refinement. The Buddha explains further, it says, there is a case where a man or a woman or man is envious or jealous. He or she envies, begrudges, and broods about others' gains, honor, respect, reverence, salutations, and veneration. Through having adopted and carried out such actions, on the breakup of the body after death, he or she reappears in the plane of deprivation. Plane of deprivation means the lower three realms, the animal realm, hungry ghost realm, and the hells. If instead he or she comes in a human state, then he or she is not influential wherever reborn. This is the way leading to not being influential, to be envious, to envy, begrudge, and brood others' gains, honors, respect, reverence, salutations, and veneration. Then the Buddha further says that, but then there is the case where a woman or man is not envious. Because of time, we don't have, I'm not going to read the whole sutra, but basically, it's the opposite. So a person like that, you're not jealous, you appear in a good destination, but if you're not in a good destination, which is the heavenly realms, and you're reborn as a human, you have influence. That means people listen to you. Okay, and then the Buddha also says that when it comes to stinginess, the Buddha says there's a case where a woman or man is not a giver of food, drink, cloth, sandals, garlands, scents, things that other people need. But because you're stingy, you don't give away. Again, the same thing happens. It says after death, a person like this will appear in the plane of deprivation. If the person were to reborn as a human, the Buddha says he or she will be poor wherever they are reborn. So someone who is not generous will be poor, or worse still, be born in the three lower realms. And then correspondingly, the opposite is if a person is generous, then you go to a good destination, the heavenly realms. Or if you are reborn as a human, then you will be wealthy. You will not have one for money. Yeah. So I guess that concludes our class for today. Let me see. So Saha says, Saha's question is, when we chant the Medicine Master Buddha mantra, can we dedicate the merit to be born in Amitabha's land? I don't see why not. That's entirely up to you. You could be chanting Medicine Master Buddha's mantra because of the state of the world that we are living in right now. Medicine Master Buddha mantra seems really appropriate. But that does not mean that you have to be reborn in Medicine Master Buddha's Pure Land. No one's going to force you to, put you in handcuffs and drag you to Medicine Master Buddha's Pure Land. Whether the choice to make, if you, regardless of the practice, is up to you. So logically speaking, if most people, they want to be born in Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land, they do the usual Pure Land practices are all related to Amitabha Buddha. That helps keep the mind focused. But there's there's just that reason. It doesn't mean that you will be, or you have to. You can do any other practice. You can recite Great Compassion Mantra, for example. You can recite Om Mani Padme Hum, or any other virtuous and merit practices. But dedicate all that to be reborn in Amitabha's Pure Land. Yeah, that's up to you. Your intention is up to you. So Ron says, Fasha, I hope we can question and discuss these topics next week and take these topics to a more practical level. Sure, Ron, if you have something in mind, share with me. Let's see what other people have to say. If practical, I'm not sure what practical for a monk may be practical for lay people, so I might need some help there as well. All right. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Let's transfer merit. How do I? Okay, and this slideshow, and then. Okay. Everyone ready? Let's put our palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha and to Rebel Master. Okay. Three bows to the Buddha. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. All right, everyone. For those of you who think the same as Ron and we have that shares the same idea that we should take these topics to a more practical level. That can happen if you ask questions. So then that makes it really practical, because you are bringing your experiences to the sutra. So how about this way? Instead of, I'll try my best as well, but it would be best if you have any, if the sutra resonates with you at any level, and you have any question or ideas or anything interesting that you want to share, then you bring it up. And that's how we can make the sutra more relevant to ourselves. That would be very helpful on my side. Then I can respond using the Dharma and the sutra. Okay, we'll see everyone next week. Amitabha.
Thank you, Pháp Sư.
Thank you.